Hello.
Yes, Subhashi. Yes, Shri. We are waiting for a few more people to join. Then we'll start.
रवि आपने बोला था जी नहीं यूज करना.
Okay.
Rules यार. We start with the rules.
Actually, we are waiting for our moderator, Mansi, to join. Let her. She had some issues, so give her some time. So maybe another. All right, Mansi ji, go ahead. We are waiting for you. 6, so we can start.
Okay, Jai Shri Hari, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, Mansi ji, Jai Shri Hari.
Okay, so we have Anu with us. So she is going to give us a small insight into how to approach Bhagavad Gita as a text for self-transformation, as a text which can lead us to questions that help us on progressing with the study of Bhagavad Gita. So I would request Anu to please start.
Jai Shri everyone. So we will first start off with our prayer to the lotus feet of our master, and then we will start. So before we start the prayer, please situate yourself. Take a deep breath in. And with that out breath, throw away everything that's on your mind currently and empty your mind. Ananta sansara samudratara naukahitabhyam guru bhaktidabhyam vairagya samrajada pujanabhyam namo namah Shri Guru Padukabhyam Namo Namah Shri Guru Padukabhyam Namo Namah Shri Guru Padukabhyam. Taking the refuge of the lotus feet of our Divine Master, let us begin today's session holding the conviction that in thy refuge there is nothing unknowable and there is nothing unachievable. Not a thought, not a belief. It's a firm conviction that in His grace, under His umbrella, everything is achievable. Seeking His refuge again and again. When Arjuna became Arjuna, Lord Krishna assumed the form of a guru guiding him. Not under a tree, not in solitude somewhere, in the middle of action. So Arjuna Vishada Yoga is a very, very important chapter, because without Vishad, there was no readiness for Gyan. Sometimes, not sometimes, but only when life literally washes us, that Vishad is that extreme pain, desperation, and a feeling of, I give up. I've used my brains, I've used my intelligence, I have used my skills, I have used my knowledge, I have used everything at my disposal. All my resources I have exhausted. And now I realize none of that can help me. That state is Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Truly, not everyone gets to that state. Because when we are in trouble, when we are in any kind of confusion, we rely on our intelligence, we rely on our skills, we rely on our abilities, we rely on our support system, we rely on our belief systems, we rely on all these things, and somehow or the other we find solutions. Arjun, in the Arjuna Vishada Yoga, we will see he goes through all of that. He talks about his skills, his knowledge, his beliefs, his support system, his closest family members. At the end, he himself starts talking, and at the end he realizes none of this is going to help. Then he becomes Sharana, then he is on his knees saying, I've used everything that I have to realize I'm helpless. I'm completely surrendered to thee because I don't know what else to use. I have nothing. So after he empties everything he has, he becomes Supatra. He becomes ready for knowledge. Till then, Lord Krishna doesn't give him anything. He says, you use whatever you have first. You have to exhaust your resources first. Use everything, every ounce of energy to think about every possible way. Use every ounce of knowledge you have acquired. Everything. So when life literally, if we look back at our own life experiences, we will realize that in times of desperation, when you have used it all and you sit down to pray, your prayer is most effective because you have become a Supatra. You have emptied every resource you have. You have become Supatra. So Arjun at the very beginning versus Arjun at the very end. The difference is, in the beginning, surrender was very hard for him. He was holding on to so much that he had. At the end, surrender became very easy for him. It was his natural state then. So surrender is something that's very hard to do, but it's the easiest thing when it's done. So Arjuna Vishada Yoga, we have to approach it with that mindset. How in every verse, what faculty he used, and how we too, in times of despair, we use it all. At the very end, we are defeated on our knees. At that point, we are naturally surrendered. And that, if you look back at your own life experiences, you will realize at some point you tried it all. Finally, you gave up and you said, Prabhu, now you take care. And then that thing was done. And that's life's way of teaching us surrender. And then sometimes we wonder, I wish I just surrendered to begin with. But it doesn't come so easy because mind needs a lot of push to come out of its inertia. So, how to approach Srimad Bhagavad Gita? The absolute first thing needed is surrender. And that surrender comes after we have used all our resources. We have used our knowledge to understand Bhagwan. We have used our mind to meditate on Bhagwan. We have used our support system to talk about Bhagwan. We have used our study groups to understand Bhagwan. Remember, all this is still happening in the mind, and he's beyond the mind. If right now you are thinking about a white elephant, a beautifully decorated white elephant, who knows within you that you are thinking about that white elephant? There is an observer that is observing the mind. That is Shri Krishna. The mind is Arjuna. When the mind is completely surrendered to the source, teachings flow in silence. So the way to approach Srimad Bhagavad Gita is with absolute desperation that I have used all my faculties that you have given me to know you, and I am failing. It's like if you take a torch, a battery, think about the bulb. The bulb wants to know who is giving me the power. Let me turn around and see. As soon as the bulb gets disconnected to see, the bulb doesn't even exist anymore. So when we reach a state, when we truly, from the depths of our heart, reach a state saying, I truly don't know. My intellect cannot know. My mind cannot know, cannot fathom. That's when Shri Krishna starts revealing himself. Only he can reveal himself. He cannot be known. Knowing is the faculty of the mind. The mind knows because Shri Krishna allows the mind to know. So it might look like I'm repeating myself, but truly, do you feel you don't know? Truly, do we feel we don't know? Is a question to ask in the depths of our hearts. Because the day we feel that desperation, we will start to realize, we will start to experience his presence. To know is the faculty of the mind. I know God. I feel God is different. Which is why it's important to know that no matter how much study groups we do and how much discussions we do, we continue circling in the mind. Which is why it's important that we approach this discussion with absolute surrender and a true feeling of not knowing, not being able to use any of our faculties to know him. So let us approach this with ultimate surrender, as much as we can muster. And remember, surrender is a gift of Lord Krishna. Without his gift, we cannot experience surrender. So like we ask him for worldly things, we should start asking today for that ultimate surrender. Saying, Prabhu, I don't even know how to surrender. I know of the word surrender. I know what that means. My mind thinks it knows what surrender is, but I truly don't experience that deep surrender. You alone can teach me that surrender. So teach me, situate me in that surrender should be our prayer every day. Because surrender is the toughest thing to do, but the easiest when done. At the end, no matter who came in front of Arjuna to say, maybe you shouldn't fight. I don't even think he would listen. Because by then he was fully surrendered. In the beginning, yes, he had questions. So to move forward with this discussion, what we need is surrender. Not the kind that the mind knows, but the kind that the heart doesn't know yet. To experience the surrender, the level of surrender of a devotee, like Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, you need his grace. That's why listening to the glories of the devotees, the Lord blesses us with surrender. We cannot get into this beautiful scripture without being soaked in bhakti. Because when we are soaked in bhakti, the knowledge or the grace enters the heart, because the heart is prepared, the soil is prepared. It is not dry. But if we approach it through our mind, it is going to become an intellectual burden. We all carry baggage. We don't want intellectual baggage now. The heart has to be melted in that love. Someone who is closer than the closest, and we are unaware. Like Rumi says, you know what's the weirdest thing in this world? To not know the inner riches that lie dormant within you. I'm paraphrasing what Rumi says. So let us first dissolve our being in love of the beloved Lord who is closer than closest. Right here, right this moment, in us, as us. So go ahead, close your eyes. That silence. In that silence, recognize the observer. Open your eyes, look around you. Whatever you're looking in front of you, who's looking from within? There is some power within you that's looking when your eyes are open. Go ahead, close your eyes. Think of anything, think of anyone. And ask yourself, who is looking at the mind? Who knows that the mind is thinking of the white elephant at this moment? Who is that that's looking? That's our dear Lord. That's Shri Krishna, that's Divine Mother, that's Swamiji. That essence, that presence, closer than the closest. How much have we been indifferent to that presence within?
Earphones.
So let us first become aware how indifferent we have been to the Lord who has been with us every single moment of our lives. Right here, right this moment. See how your heart feels at that. See how you feel when you realize the indifference. The beloved is the greatest lover. Because although the mind has loved and sought the beloved outside, the beloved has only looked at the lover. He's the greatest lover. So that Lord, he's called Krishna. Krishna is Akarshan Shakti, the power of attraction. This is the blessed moment when Lord Krishna comes looking for the mind, saying, now it's time to come home. Because the mind finally takes a glimpse at the presence of Lord Krishna within. And now the mind says, wow, you have been here all along. Where have I been? And that's the Vishad. That's the true Vishad. You have been here this moment with me, in me, as me all along. I've been searching for you all over. And that's exactly what happened with Arjun. The same Atma manifested outside as Sri Krishna. That's why the attraction was uncontrollable. He couldn't hold himself away from Lord Krishna. Why can't we hold ourselves away from Swamiji? What is this attraction? It is that deep attraction to our own self. Our own Atma is standing embodied outside. That's why that pull. So let us first be surrendered to him, either outside or to him within. It's the same. So we have to approach this text with surrender. What kind of surrender? The surrender that we don't know yet, that we want. The surrender that Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa had for Mother Kali. The kind of surrender that Swamiji has for Sri Hari. The kind of surrender Tukaram Maharaj had for Vithoba. We don't know that surrender is the first step. We don't know that level of surrender. To say, I know what surrender is the thing of the mind. So let us sincerely ask for that kind of surrender, because there is nothing that Mother doesn't bless. Whatever you want, she will give you. Ask and you shall receive. So Arjuna Vishada Yoga has to be approached this way. Each and every verse will give us an idea of how he used his resources, how he depleted them. Every single angle he could think of, he used it. At the end, he fell down on his knees, dropped his bow and arrow. With sweaty body, palms clasped in ultimate surrender. He said, now I don't know. I don't know now. Tell me. Till then, Lord Krishna sat there smiling, saying, come on, let me see what all you got. And when he truly experienced desperation, Lord Krishna said, now, let me tell you. So this is, I think, this is what I wanted to share today. We all know, when I say know, think about the mindly knowing through the mind. The battlefield represents the field of action. They were in the middle. Okay. Because as soon as, even if I start mentioning that, the mind will kick in and say, yeah, I already know. But to continuously, like it says, fake it till you make it. At least let's start faking that I don't know. My mind says, Prabhu, that I know, but I really don't know. Don't listen to my mind. I'm telling you from the deepest of my heart, I don't know. So with that, let us begin our study group. So that's all I had to say. Thank you for listening to me. It's divine grace. Let us all be surrendered unto the lotus feet of our divine master. Gururangri padme manaschena lagnam tata kim tata kim tata kim tata kim. Without the bee of your mind, the bee, right? It goes into flowers and collects nectar. That's how our mind has become. It just wants to go into worldly things and collect happiness. But till the time the mind doesn't get entangled in the lotus feet of the Guru, tata kim, tata kim, tata kim, tata kim. So what? You can become a Jnani, Vidvani, you can become a great achiever in the outside world, extracting happiness from worldly activities like the bee. But till the time the bee that your mind is doesn't start extracting true love, pure love from the lotus feet of the master, of the guru, tata kim, tata kim, tata kim, tata kim. All glories to our divine master. Narayani, Namostate.
Thank you, Anu. I would request Divya Vanshika ji, if you're here, to please commence the study on the verses, beginning with the Gita Dhyanam. Divya Vanshika ji, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Jai Shri Hari, everyone. I'll start with the Gita Dhyanam. There are 8 verses in the Gita Dhyanam. So before we start the first chapter, the Gita Dhyanam talks about the Mahima of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, where it was said, who said it, what is the core message, and what should we meditate on. So just the 8 verses. I will just say the verse and very briefly say the meaning. Please excuse me for a bad throat. I'm just recovering from COVID. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Grathitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharate Advaita Mrita Varshinim Bhagavati Mashta Dashadhyayinim Amba Tvama Nusandadhami Bhagavad Gita Bhavadveshani. That which was taught to Arjuna by Lord Narayana himself, which was written by the epic sage Vyas in the middle of Mahabharata. O Mother Goddess, who showers the nectar of Advait called the Bhagavad Gita, which has 18 chapters, I meditate on you, Mother, who removes all past karma. So a text which is considered one of the supreme texts of the Advait philosophy, meditating on Bhagavad Gita itself frees you from the past karma. Namostu te vyasa vishala buddhe phulla ravindayata patra netre yena tvaya bharata taila purna prajwalito jnanamaya pradipah. Salutations to Vyas, has immense intellect, who has eyes like petals of lotus flower, who has filled up oil to the lamp of Mahabharat, lighted it to pinpoint wisdom. Prapanna parijataya totra vaitre kapanaye jnana mudraya krishnaya Gitamrita duhe namah. So this verse says salutations to Sri Krishna, who's like the parijat, which is the wish-giving tree, and who holds a cane to drive the cattle. So this visualizes Sri Krishna in his form of the shepherd, the great shepherd, who the Gopal, who was always playing with the cows, but who also in his Jnana Mudra, who opens the seal and gives us all the nectar. The next one actually talks about how Sri Krishna just didn't get the butter out of the milk. He also, out of all the wisdom that is there in the Upanishads, he got the wisdom in the form of Bhagavad Gita. Sarvo Panishado Gavo Dogdha Gopalanandana Partho Vatsaha Sudhir Bhakta Dugdham Gitamritam Mahat. All Upanishads, you can consider them as cows, and Krishna is the one who milks them, who's got the nectar for us in the form of Bhagavad Gita. In this visualization, Arjun is supposed to be the calf, and all devotees, they are the consumers of the great nectar, which is Srimad Bhagavad Gita. The next few shlokas, they talk about Sri Krishna himself. Vasudeva Sutam Daivam Kansa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. So this verse really says that Sri Krishna is the Jagat Guru. He is the divine master to the whole world. And the verse says that I salute Jagat Guru, who's the son of Vasudev, who killed Kans and Chanur, the two most powerful wrestlers he faced, his mama and his uncle and the topmost wrestler in his court, and the one who always gave divine joy to Devaki. Going on, Bhishma Drona Tata Jayadrat Jala Gandharini Lotpala Shalya Grahavati Kripena Vahini Karnena Velakul Ashwattama Vikarna Ghora Makara Duryodhana Vartini Sotrina Khalu Pandavarna Vanadi Kairvatakah Keshwah. So it talks about the setting of the Mahabharata, which said, and Bhishma and Drona being the two banks of the Mahabharata, Jayadratha being the water, Shakuni, the king of Gandhar, being the blue lotus, Shalya as a crocodile, Kripacharya as the tide, and Karn as the mighty wave. And Ashwathama and Vikarna were the dangerous alligators, and Duryodhan himself was a whirlpool. So, and in the middle of, this particular battlefront with so many dangers in it, the Pandavas, they crossed this river of war with Krishna as their helmsman and boatsman. So Krishna alone took Pandavas on the other side, and the prayer is that may he guide us onto the other side as well. Parasharya Vachah Saroj Mamalam Gitartha Gandhotkatam Nanakyanaka Kesharam Harikatha Sambodhana Bodhitam Loke Sajjana Shadvadairah Raha Pepiyamana Muda Bhuyad Bharata Pankajam Kalimala Pradvansanam Shreyase. So the lotus of Mahabharata, which arose from the water, which was said by the son of Parashar, and had several stories as pollen grains. And these are the stories of Sri Mahavishnu, Lord Vishnu, and it is drunk as the honeybee of. It is drunk by the honeybee of very good people, and may it always help those who want to remove the ills of Kali Yuga. And then one of the most famous verses from this Gita Dhyanam, Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripa tamaham vande paramananda madhavam. So Madhav, who's the source of supreme bliss, Krishna, who's the source of supreme bliss, whose grace can really perform all miracles, whose grace can make a dumb man eloquent, and whose grace alone can make the cripple cross the mountains. We bow to him, we salute him, and we meditate on his message. The last, the verse thereafter is, Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutah Suvanti Devyaihi Stevar Vedaihi Sangha Padakramo Panishadargayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyana Vasthit Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yogino Yasyanta Na Viduhu Sura Sura Gana Devaya Tasvai Namaha. So here it says that we salute someone, we salute who is worshipped by the divine chants of Brahma, Varun, Indra, Rudra, and Vayu, who's pleased by the singers of Samved, singing Vedas and Upanishads by following their verses and sequence, who's seen by the yogis, only by the yogis who are absorbed in him, with their minds merging in him, and whose end is not known even by the devas and the asuras. So this verse basically just says that this is Sri Krishna as the supreme Godhead, as the supreme God is actually has given the nectar of this message, which combines the wisdom of all Upanishads, of the Vedas, and as someone who can seen only by the yogis, and that too not easily. And just before the Gita Dhyanam, as Anuji was talking, it's very difficult for us to know him. There is no knowing, unless the God reveals himself. And in Bhagavad Gita, through his message, he's said to have revealed himself. So this is the Gita Dhyanam Sampurnam, and we can now go on to Arjuna Vishada Yoga if we have time. So I'm just checking on that.
Thank you, Divyaji. I will request Swati now to take up the verses quickly. I think we will do the first 4 today, and the rest can be taken up in the next call, so that we are able to have some time for the Q&A at the end of the discussion on verses.
Sure,
Swati,
thank
can you please help us with getting on with the verses?
Sure. Jai Shri Hari, everyone. It like in the Gita Dhyanam, it says Mukam karoti vachalam panghe langate giram. Although I am dumb and I am still trying to give few verses, but by Swamiji's grace, maybe something good come out of my mouth. And we'll start with the first verse, which is Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samavetaayuyutsavah mamaka pandavascheva kim kurvat sanjaya. So the 2 words that seems very important to me in this is Yuyutsavah and Mamaka. And as Anuji told that until we are ready, that readiness is not there, we actually cannot start the Gita. We cannot even think of starting Gita. So the word, the meaning of the word Yuyutsavah is someone who is ready to fight. And Mamaka is mine. So this mineness, that the identifications with things, my car, my son, my job, everything, even my reputation, everything. So that identification is so strong for the consciousness that we are bound to this world. For the first time, when the consciousness, individual consciousness is ready and understand, okay, this cannot be the end. There is more to it. And that objective mind, which is looking always outside, for the first time starts turning inwards. That is the start of this divine Gita. So the first word, literal meaning is that Dharma Kshetra Kurukshetra, this battlefield where our field of action is performing. It is actually a field of action for both Kaurav and Pandav, that is good virtues and the bad virtues. And now they are ready to fight. And with still the identification is with his own thing. He still thinks my. That's why the Dhritarashtra is saying Mamaka, and he is not saying Kuru, because both Kauravas and Pandavas are actually Kuru, but he is not addressing them as Kurus. He's saying Mamaka for Kauravas and Pandava as if they are others. So this is the meaning of first verse. And then the second verse is Drishtva tu Pandavanikam Vyudam Duryodhanastada Acharyam Upasangamya Raja Vachanam Abravit. So if we pay attention, the word Vachan Abravit, even if we would have also, all of us, we would have at some point of time started thinking about, have turned inward and started self-introspecting. And all of us would have heard a voice. Although there would be a feeble voice which says, okay, let's go back, let's purify ourselves, let's evolve. But still our attachments are so strong that there would be a voice giving us excuses, our mind cooking up excuses or things and logics. So that vachana abravit, and that's why for Duryodhan the Raja word has been used here, because right now these material desires, they are actually reigning the kingdom, they are ruling the kingdom, they have become the Raja. And so I am referring the commentary from Paramhansa Yogananda, and in that they have given the Dronacharya represents the past habits. They are the ones, these are the inner tendencies which actually train even the good and the bad virtues. So whenever there's even a feeble voice which tells us to do something good, these inner tendencies will actually come up and give us a logic. Let's say if we say we want to meditate, you'll say, oh, let's sleep, because there's a pattern to sleep, or let's do some work, or anything else which comes up to the mind, which is our own inner habits and patterns. They keep coming up, and it gives us excuse. There would be a loud voice of those excuses cooked up by mind, and the good voices becomes very, very feeble. And that is why the Duryodhan, these material desires are actually reigning the kingdom. And but here in the third verse it says, Pashyetam Panduputranam Acharya Mahatim Chamum Vyudam Drupada Putrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata. So here in the third verse, he's saying that now these Drupada Putrena, Drupad, Paramahansa Yogananda ji has told that Drupad actually means the strong dispassion. So dispassion is the first practice, and Swamiji has also reiterated it again and again and again, that the practice of dispassion is the first practice which can actually pull us away from these desires. And even the sankalpa, the practice of sankalpa, Swamiji has so many times told us. So these Drupada Putrena has actually made has protected the entire army of Pandava. So every time there are inner tendencies which wants to go toward the sense desires, it is actually pulling us away. And this is what actually the third verse means, that Vyudam Drupeda Putrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata. And Tava Shishyena Dhimata means that, again, once we practice something, we can actually have these tendencies can develop within us, just like the bad tendencies. Even the good practices, once as a habit we practice something for 40 days, 60 days, 80 days, suddenly we'll see that our mind naturally go towards that. And all of us would have seen it, particularly with the meditation or with the exercise, that once we meditate for 5 minutes every day, maybe for a year, suddenly it becomes a habit. Our mind naturally grooves toward it. There's no fight anymore for that particular thing. So this is a meaning of Tava Shishyena Dhimata, that this is also your Shishya Dronacharya. So these in past habits are the teacher of both good as well as bad habits. I would say we should actually take only 3 verses today, because 4, 5, 6 should be taken together.
Yeah, I agree.
And I've tried to give a very summarized view because of the lack of time. And thank you so much, and forgive me for any mistakes.
Thank you, Swati. I agree that we should restrain it to 3 today. If there are any questions anyone would want to bring up at this stage, you can unmute yourself and ask. Any
So one
doubts
question
anyone
here.
has?
Yeah,
Yes,
I have a
Subhashji.
question which has been. So see this whole, I mean, just playing the devil's advocate. Okay. See, the whole allegorical part, the way it is brought out is undoubtedly interesting. It makes sense for a introspection point of view. But when someone was writing the entire Mahabharata and Bhagavad Gita is a part of it, right? So how does this all fit in? I mean, why does Drupad or Drishtadyumna or anyone represent this interpretation throughout the Mahabharata, or is it just when we look at Gita as a standalone, we can use this kind of interpretation to maybe give us a better introspection?
Okay, I will just give my perspective from what I have learned and understood from teachings of various gurus and seers. After I speak, maybe someone could also add to it. Uh, from what I understand, now this text is a part of a larger epic, which is the Mahabharata, and the entire episode, not just the Bhagavad Gita, the entire episode of Mahabharata, beginning from the very first verse till it ends and how it ends, is not just an event taking place in the external world in the Dwapar Yuga. Because anything which any esoteric text is trying to tell is actually an external manifestation of the inner cosmos. So the way these rishis and seers would always convey the message is, the gyan would be kilit. It would be put in the form of a story so that the larger public would have access to something which was very difficult to fathom from the verses directly if you were to read the pure text of Vedas or even the Upanishads. When that too couldn't become very accessible, came the Puranas and came the stories and came these larger epics, which were nothing but a distillation of the Vedic knowledge. Now the knowledge has been put, of course, in the form of what brewed in the lives of these various characters. The protagonist, of course, here is Arjuna, and what they have been through the entire series of events and what has been unfolding inside and outside in their life is not something which is uniquely uh, set only in their life. It is something that comes as a life situation with each and every human being. And what this triggers as a point also, I mean, this was in fact um, told to me by a great Siddha once, that the entire episode of Bhagavad Gita, 18 chapters, you think the Lord is going to stand and talk in the middle of the battlefield? No. It was a guru who had given a very powerful Shaktipat to his disciple there. And what transmitted was an entire body of knowledge, of Gyan, descending in his very own consciousness, which then was again worded by the author of the entire epic. It was not a body of fiction. It was not something that somebody has interpreted and tried to give some esoteric connotations just like that. But this is exactly the play of events that any consciousness goes through when it has descended in a material human body. And the beautiful thing about having a human body is only a human body is capable of evolving as a consciousness. And this is a journey of the mind evolving itself from being a slave to being a master, from a journey of being in a state of conflict to coming to conclusion, to coming to a state of clarity. So when these events are studied, they are not to be studied in isolation as something that happened in someone else's life. No, this is a very um, universal teaching, because it's applicable even today and eternally will remain applicable, because it is something that is happening in you, me, and everybody else's life and minds. A mind which has not been into a state of contemplation, a mind which is learning to contemplate, and a mind which becomes nirvichar. Here we have Duryodhan, who is completely Vicharaheen. And in the middle, we have Arjun, who is trying to gain insight, who is trying to learn to contemplate, who is trying to understand things. Of course, even if he's in a state of conflict, that is why Vishada Yoga. Right now, he is in yoga is a union. He is in union with his state of mind, which is right now uh, in a completely confused, uh, desolate kind of a stage. And then there is Bhagwan, who is Vicharheen. So it is our own consciousness which is transcending from being completely Vicharheen, being completely mindless in the sense that you are not being mindful, to learning to being aware, learning to being conscious, and then a state which sprouts out of this mindfulness is a state of being in bliss, being in union with that Antaratma, which is residing as my own self and has manifested outside in whatever form you may want to give to your Isht, whatever form you see in the form of your Guru. So that is my understanding and perspective to it. If anyone else wants to add something to it, may please unmute yourself.
I would just like to add one thing. Thank you so much, Anuji, and you have given a beautiful explanation as well. Subhaji, I understand from where you are coming. So, the reason why I ended up accumulating the commentary from Paramahansa Yogananda. Before that, I would have read more than 8 to 10 commentaries, because one day there was a thought that dawned upon me that actually I, as a consciousness, has a physical and a mental and an emotional body. So maybe these characters represent the prominent, dominant mental body of their own consciousness. And that's how I was searching for books where I can get these clues. And I came through Rigved Nirukta of Dayanand Saraswati, where he spoke about Nirukt etymology, that as a rishi, as a seeker, we should try to find the etymologies and meanings of the words which can give us a clue how to evolve ourselves. And then I came across this. So you and I also are consciousness, but we both have a different prominent mental traits. And those traits are, although maybe prominent, some traits might be prominent in you and me, but at the basic level, all the basic emotions and tendencies are within us. So there's an outer mental form which is actually indicating a battlefield between the inner mental form, if that makes sense, Bashi.
Yeah, we'll think about that.
Anu, would you
Thank
want
you.
to say something on this and then give a concluding note to the discussion today?
I don't know if, to tell you the truth, I don't know the esoteric meaning and who represents what. Somewhere I believe, not somewhere I believe, I only believe in one thing, that, as I said, with the attitude of surrender, if we approach the text, the Lord will, it's like, the mother feeding the child. The child sometimes gets greedy and wants more. The mother knows how much to feed, when to feed, and what to feed. And in that surrender, baby is very hungry, wants to drink a bunch of milk, but the mother only gives little bit at a time and makes sure the baby digests. So with that childlike surrender, if we approach, the Lord will take care. He will give every esoteric meaning. He will give everything that we need to know. Just with that pure love for the Lord, we enter this text saying, we are not here to understand you. We are here to love you. We are here to love you more and more and more with everything you say. And you know what to give, when to give, and how much to give. Because there is an ocean of intellectual knowledge out there. Ocean. So many commentaries, so many books, so many point of views. And because the mind is still not full, this is just what I'm saying for myself. I feel like my mind is not fully mature to understand these things. But my mind knows only one thing, to cling on to the Divine Mother, saying, you tell me what I need to know, and I will know. I don't need to know further. So, yes, I have read some commentaries in the past that this represents your intellect, this represents your mind. But what I have noticed in myself when I read these commentaries and this represents that, that represents this, it creates divisions within me. Oh, probably it's my mind. Oh, probably it's my intellect. Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate. It's a whole, it's one big block. So that one block is my Isht, whoever that is for everyone else. So, and I rely on that Isht to give me whatever I need at any point of time. So with that mindset, if we enter the study, the Lord knows who's prepared for what knowledge at what time and how much. And He will keep giving from within. The intention is what the Lord sees. He sees that, on a Saturday evening, bunch of people have gathered together to hear my glories. Everyone's going to walk away with something. What depends on the recipient. There are two children in the house. One has a strong digestive system, the other one doesn't. Mother knows who to give what. The one with the strong digestive system can handle more junk food. So mother allows. The other one cries that I too want, but you can't handle it. So with that belief, let's just keep reading whatever needs to come from within, because anything we learn from outside becomes intellectual knowledge and it becomes a burden. You got to carry it, lug it around. But something that comes from within is part of you. It's no more intellectual burden, and it's part of you. It is you, it is your existence. So let us strive to get to that stage wherein the Lord gives from within, we chew it up within, and it is part of us. So the mind is always empty. Whenever the right time comes, that knowledge comes to help. So sorry, that's all I had to say. My son is making too much noise.
Absolutely agree with you, Anu, on this. So on this note, I would like Raviji to please conclude the session today.
Yeah, I don't have much to add. Thank you, everyone. I think it was a wonderful start, and let's continue this every week. We'll probably have a better timing next week, and yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Jai Shri Hari.
Thank you.